that didn't go. September 28th, 2021, Finance Committee meeting. This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, this is an in-person only meeting tonight. Is anybody else recording? Normally, okay, you're recording?
Yep.
Normally just ask that you notify us that you are.
Yep.
That's fine. Thank you. This is representatives from the
Westfield News.
Westfield Evening News. Okay. Okay, we've got a lot of people in different places. I thought it might be appropriate if everybody just kind of introduces himself in the room. I'm Art Bell, acting chair tonight.
Alita DiMaria.
Richard Zalowski.
Laura Fletcher, town accountant.
Melissa Bridges.
Nina Green, the finance secretary.
Robin Solik, former secretary of the Finance Committee. I just wanted to thank everybody. I enjoyed my 18 years of service. It's my first position here with the town, so it really means a lot to me that I was able to serve you.
So your sentence is complete, right? Few years
Partially.
off for good behavior.
Partially.
My name's Terry Mish. I'm the comic relief.
That's true. Sheila Chamberlain and Robin, it's been our pleasure too.
Thank you. Karen DeMayo.
All right, thank you for that. Okay, we got a little bit of housekeeping to do before we actually get into the agenda. And I want to start by welcoming Alita DiMaria and Dr. Richard Zalowski. Alita is our new regular member and Dr. Zalowski is our new associate member. So I want to welcome you on board and tell you that at any time if you have questions or we're talking about something that you don't understand and you want a little more clarification, please feel free. Some of us have been here longer than dirt, others not so long. So it's totally appropriate to ask questions anytime an issue arises, okay? While we're talking about our new associate member, I just wanted to clarify the activity that Dr. Zalowski can participate in. And according to an opinion from our town clerk today, Richard can vote in any meeting in the absence of one of our regular members. So while you can always participate in conversations and discussions, if the whole board is present, you're not able to vote. But in the absence of one of our members, you are able to vote. So that's the case we find ourselves in tonight. So if there's something that comes up eventually,
Quick question.
yes.
Does he count towards a quorum? If we're short a person for a quorum? That was, I know, I'm talking from the planning board, that was not, he could vote, I mean, wherever the associate could vote on special permits and things like that if they needed that, you know, where there was needed a 2/3 vote or whatever, but could not count towards a quorum.
Well, they're able to participate in the meeting if there's members absent. So in light of that, I would say that they can,
Just
Join
get a,
in.
just, it's probably not gonna be a problem, because we'll pretty much always have a quorum, but I
No,
should probably
this-
check that out.
this is an area that it hasn't been explored a lot in the past, and these are legitimate questions, absolutely. But again, Michelle Hill said that an associate member can only vote if a regular member is absent, so they could fulfill the requirements to create a
But I'd
quorum.
still check that, because that's,
Well, we can ask for further clarification.
yeah, it's not gonna happen
Not a-
tonight, that's
not
for
a
sure.
problem. Okay. Further, I wanted to mention Linda Batho, who just recently resigned. That's why I'm sitting here as acting chair. And I want to recognize her service for, I don't know how many years, all told in service to the town on different boards and committees. But she's always been very active and outspoken and was always, I thought, an asset to this committee. So I'm gonna miss her, and I hope she does well. I've emailed her expressing those sentiments and told her I'd call her once in a while for an opinion if I was stuck on something, and she said, guess what, I'll be happy to give you one. So that's good, I think. I was also gonna mention Robin Solak, who has been our secretary since
2003.
2003. And Robin's been the kind of person that you just assume she's always there. She's a go-to person. If you had questions or you wanted something done or people contacted, she was always there to do that. And we appreciate that. You did a great job. We're gonna miss it. But I'm sure Nina will fill the role moving forward.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So, again, thank you very much for everything you did for Finance Committee. You've been a part of this operation for a long time. Finally, I wanted to mention again, Bob Brodcheck, our member who was not with us, he had a medical issue a couple of months ago and he's still recovering. The good news is that he is still recovering and he's moving forward slowly. He's got quite a rehab scenario in front of him, but he seems to be in great spirits and he has his usual kind of attitude, I'll just leave it at that, and ideas about things, but he's doing well, and I just wanted to mention him. Okay, so again, before we get into kind of the meat of the meeting, which would include our Carl Steinhardt, our Chief Administrative Officer, is here tonight to explain things, but before we get to that, I did want to ask if there are any public comments, which are a regular part of the meeting. Okay, seeing none. Before we get to Carl, I'd like to look at the June 29th minutes. I don't know if everybody had a chance to look at those already.
I didn't see anything.
All right, Terry needs to look at it because he's usually,
I was gonna say, if anyone's gonna find something, it's
See, when I
Terry.
told you.
he's usually the pain in the, most critical person when reviewing the minutes. Which I did want to comment on the agenda as well while we're looking at the minutes. The agenda that we have in front of us tonight was Nina's first attempt, I believe, at least with myself. And the agenda was kind of a hybrid between what Linda had prepared before she resigned and what I added on later. And so it's a little bit of it's a little out of order, but that's my fault because I approved it the way it is. And we'll address kind of the order of things
Okay.
at another time. But again, another new person on the block, and we got to get to know each other and know what we expect and how to take care of business. But that won't be a problem. So getting back to the minutes of June 29th. Terry's still reading.
No,
You all
I
set?
looked at it, yeah.
All right,
did my homework.
any other comments or questions about the minutes? No? Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of June 29th, 21?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. We don't have to do a roll call vote.
Yeah, I was gonna say, should I abstain, because I wasn't.
I don't.
You weren't official till July
Right.
1st.
Right,
Yeah, I would
So-
suggest that it won't hurt to abstain.
Yep.
Yourself as well.
And I have to abstain, I wasn't there.
All right.
So that means there's only 3.
That means there's only 3. So here we are at the question that we can,
We're
okay.
not gonna get 4 either anytime soon.
Right.
All right. So in that case, we'll ask you to vote tonight.
Can invoke the rule of necessity.
Thank you.
Do we just invoke the rule of necessity?
Yeah,
for
We
the
just
three?
invoke the rule of necessity.
Because you really, at the end of the day, you're gonna want to accept it, some minutes and file them in the clerk's office
Right.
under the, public records law or open meeting law. So it's gonna necessitate you having to take that action.
Okay, so all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? None opposed, any abstentions? Sheila, 1 abstention.
I watched the recording, so I did watch the recording, so.
Oh, good,
I
perfect.
guess that,
Perfect.
there?
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah.
Well, you did or you didn't?
No, I appear.
Yeah. Oh, no, I knew
Yeah.
on the side, yeah.
Yes, I remember, yeah. Yeah, it's just, again, this is a little bit of a different
Yeah.
situation for us, so
Yep,
we're trying to cover the bases. I'm trying to cover the bases.
Elizabeth should have been there, it was a lot of fun.
Who
Was it?
abstained?
Sheila abstained
Okay, just Sheila, okay.
because you weren't here,
I
correct?
was not here.
Thank you.
Okay.
I was scoring them fast.
All right, now we're getting to the thick of the meeting. Carl Steinhardt is with us, if you'd like to come up or take the corner. We've asked Carl to come in tonight to explain, I guess there's 3 or 4 things on the agenda here
That's correct.
that you certainly could clarify, help clarify for us. The first is the DOR Town Community Compact Grant.
Yeah, the Southwick is this community compact grant process was created 5-6 years ago by the Lieutenant Governor of Massachusetts with the governor's support. And it was to have a whole host of different categories in municipal government where you could begin to invest money to cities and towns to create best management practices. So Southwick has made use of this program quite a bit. We did one IT grant a while ago, and through your budget process a number of years ago, you had appropriated local share money, and then you did it in a more recent budget. So, in that IT budget, improvements for cybersecurity, improving our network, things that Laura's been working on with Jim, and our outside contract vendors have been trying to address our computer security and improve things. So this is another example of something that came out of that program where we wanted to have a better tool for, our financial people, department heads, the select board, myself, and your board, when we're dealing with, reviewing budgets and looking at the revenue side. So we had gone to the Department of Revenue and asked them to, to do this project with us. And what this does is, right now, for those of you that have been on the board, and Laura's been created for a while, is we have certain budget sheets where we look at, the different types of revenues and the different types of expenses that are coming from general fund, the school district, issues for outside assessments like pensions, retirement boards, things of that nature. Well, we wanted to look about, you look at that type of a document and you want to go a little deeper, then that's what this type of a document does. So the Department of Revenue couldn't get to this project in time, so they allowed us to hire an outside CPA firm with a grant. So we did do that, and actually we also did another one for it to develop a capital plan. So that's still underway. So this was just something that had just come in recently that we finalized, because a lot of things were being done through Zoom calls and conference calls, and there wasn't too many people getting together for a long period of time. But we still had to carry on and get things done. So this represents the results of that, and it's one of those things where, again, you can start to look at the numbers, and it's not something you really need to go through tonight. It's just something you want to be aware of as you learn more about your roles and what you're doing, as well as fine-tuning what you've already been using and building upon it. And for instance, let me give you an idea. When you create your handbook, in the last couple of years, we've started to put more information in it that's informational to the public to give them context. Well, this will allow you to look at some other things in other types of sheets and other types of screenshots that you may also want to put into future documents.
So, if I could just probably repeat something you've already said, but
Yeah.
According to some of the language in the first paragraph that we have in our mail folder, this is really a starting framework to help the town assess short and long-term financial implications. And I think this will come into play more for the finance committee, again, during budget season,
Yes.
when we're looking at budgets and we're contemplating trends and the way we want to move forward with things and how we're comparing things to the past. this information that's part of this program will help us, I think, analyze a lot of different things in a general way.
Right, and a big part of that, when you look at the second page, that talks about revenues and expenditures. This is something that really fits that other one-page sheet that you use each year to finalize the budget, where you make decisions about how much of the full levy limit you want to levy up to under the confines of Proposition 2.5. Well, sometimes you've been able to use free cash, and you've used more free cash, but sometimes you're using free cash to end the fiscal year expenses like snow and ice deficits, which of course could be added on to the succeeding year's tax rates if it were to never be approved. So that's why we liquidate that liability at town meeting to close our books out. But those are the types of things where if people didn't want to do it, they didn't vote for it, it just automatically gets added on to your next fall's tax rate and goes set. So, but we don't do that. We actually finish the year in balance and do not carry over deficits. And then there's other issues, again, with levies, as well as the historical part of how the Finance Committee in the past has approached the budget. And then, you got issues like the OPEB and so forth. And, different trust funds and things of that nature, where monies come from and where monies go to. So this is a good sheet to be looking at and to see how it dovetails into the project revenue and expenditure sheet when you do the budget document. And then the rest is just the detail. And there's many more pages of detail that Laura has. Many, many more pages.
I think it's impressive.
So this was a $5,000 investment. It came from this state program, and again, we're doing the other one. So it's just one of those things. It's like a snapshot. Okay, where are we now? How are we doing things? What kinds of decisions are we making? And then you get to sort of immerse yourself in it, because let's face it, you're a whole cast of characters. Each one of you have pros and cons about what you want to get involved in, who likes to be involved in the issues relating to capital planning and other issues. So, there's enough of you to figure out which ones you want to get involved in, as well as your liaison assignments.
So, that sounds adequate unless you have more.
It's really just more of an introductory to it, to just let you know, hey, this is something that just came in within the last couple of weeks, and I wanted to, it's been sent to the DOR, it goes on their webpage, because they got to show people what they're doing down there, and then it's something that you get to use as a frame of reference, and like any other document, it's subject to change as we go over the next couple of years.
And this will be updated yearly, I assume?
Well,
Or changed?
some of the formatting, yeah, I mean, Laura and Melissa can do this, and they also have access to the CPA firm, because this firm has worked well with us, because Laura knows this firm, because when she transferred her, profession and her vocation from the nonprofit, private sector into municipal accounting, this was part of the firm that helped us with that transition.
Okay, I guess my question was, this is a 5-year look ahead.
Yeah.
Will we always be working with a 5-year look ahead? Is that the plan to?
We would have to ask the firm to work with our staff to update it, but it's something that we,
I'm not
should
saying,
be trying.
I'm not saying we need to worry about that tonight, but I'm just,
Yeah,
you know.
we should be trying to do that going forward, using the framework
Yeah,
and the methodology.
yeah. Okay, and I'm gonna volunteer Laura, especially,
Nice.
when the finance committee has complicated questions, Laura is our resource first and foremost. So, this is most of the information for our new member. If you have specific questions, you can always be in touch with Laura. Thank you for volunteering. No, she's traditionally provided that kind of service. And it's important because we have questions frequently about issues that we're looking at from meeting to meeting, actually. So I just want to make you aware that we have resources, and if Laura's not sure, she has resources.
Yep.
And, you know, one way or the other, we get to the bottom of most of the questions that get generated.
Right, we have access to the State Department of Revenue, we have an outside audit function, so we have all of those different things, we have, you know, so this is the resource person and support person for the finance committee, as I am for the select board, and the planner is for the planning board, so that's, you know, when you come into this position, you're a volunteer in a municipal board, but you're, you know, you're still a volunteer citizen, so you're coming in to play a part in a role, and that role is supported by your investment in the budget in funding these positions and having these people available to help out.
Okay, any other questions right now on this? Again, if you have questions down the road, we'll get them addressed. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the Firemen's Association Building Inspection.
Yep, that's your board, as well as the select board, approved funds at the end of the year, because what happened was the Fire Association turned over the Fire Association building and property back to the town. It had been a 1965 vote that allowed for the building to be built on municipal property and allowed them to use it for that purpose. They no longer need it for that purpose. The building has been in a state of disrepair for 15 or 20 years.
What's the approximate size of
So-
this building, about 40 by 60?
And by the way, that's not the document you're looking at. That's the town hall roof. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
I was
the-
gonna say.
That's the new fire station
Yeah.
roof. There's no report here
Yeah.
for this.
Okay.
Alright,
So that building, which is in disrepair, is approximately, what, 40 by 60?
Yeah,
block
30
building?
by 72 or something like that. It's near the wetlands and all that, so it's in a state of disrepair. So at the end of the budget season, your board had approved somewhere in the order of about a little less than $18,000. We commissioned Ty and Bond to do a study because it had to be done anyway, because when you have a building, you have to have an existing conditions assessment. And that tells you what you have for lead, you know, all the types of things that are in a building that would have to be remediated. So whether you were to renovate the building, or whether or not you were to tear it down, you would still have to have most of this
that's
done.
my next question.
Yes, that has to be done either way.
It's about the use, and if it wasn't really a viable use for
Yep.
what are we
Doesn't
doing-
matter, most of it-
What are we doing with it?
Exactly, so, and that's what, we are not clear on that yet. The board does have a potential discussion with the food pantry. Not sure where that's gonna go. I mean, the building is, you know, in pretty bad shape, but,
Dilapidate.
yeah, there's another good word, that's a 50-cent word, let's
Yeah.
go.
But the engineering firm has done an analysis?
They have, yeah, they did chemical samples and all that kind of stuff, and then they've also been looking at the existing conditions of the roof, the trusses, you know, all the types of things that have to be in there. So that is just coming to us now in draft form, so Joe is the designee of the board, and myself have to meet with the building commissioner about what input, because there was an issue about whether or not we could save the walls and build from there and then still reuse it and repurpose it. Or then there's another way of thinking about it, whether or not it just gets totally, you know, taken down. So, you know, rather than when this issue first came to us, like right around the budget time when things were already set and in motion, we could have just sat there and had a locked up building and waited till next year to get the money to do the assessment. But because we were able to, you know, work with your committee under the Municipal Modernization Act and make this year-end transfer, we were able to be, you know, we were a year ahead of ourselves now, which is good. So, once we finalize that report, we will provide copies to the committee.
Okay.
Just had an opinion on that back there too, and I haven't talked to,
Is that a qualified opinion?
never a qualified opinion. It's just mine. I haven't talked to Chief Anderson about it, but I'm real curious, is, you know, we renovate it, and even if it goes to the pantry, the amount of traffic going back there, I mean, I'm just not keen on,
Yeah, those are all things that are,
that's
Those-
big for me,
those are all things that
should
are
not be back
determined
there.
by a planning board under site plan approval and a permitted use.
Yeah.
So that exercise of what the
What is
use
that?
of the facility would be
Right.
and how things work with parking and traffic circulation, those are all things that fall under the purview of the planning.
Right. Whether it's a nonprofit or a for-profit
Yep.
endeavor going back there. So anyway, I'm against it. I just soon see it. From what I've seen of it, should be just torn
Yeah,
down.
well, we're not, yeah, like I said, we're not even at that
Well,
point
you know
right
what
now.
I,
We're-
you know what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, you're the liaison to the fire department, so, I mean, I know what you're saying.
Oh, wow, then maybe I do have a qualified. something
Plenty
or
of
other.
parking in the wetland buffer zone,
Ah, okay.
right? They're good.
Yeah,
Good.
I,
I don't know. Okay, so that's an ongoing assessment that
Yep.
we're gonna have the results of shortly, week
very
2,
certainly,
3.
yeah, it's in draft form, and again, Mr. Didi has to go over this issue as the client with the engineering firm and the building commissioner.
Okay. All right, the next item is the Council on Aging and Park and Rec reorganization. And if I could just put this in my layman's terms before you dig into it. It's an effort by the Select Board to address needs in both of those departments partially by reassigning people and changing job descriptions. And again, the idea is to, more specifically, Park and Rec needs more help with managing Park and Rec properties and functions that they're involved with, and Council on Aging also needs additional hours, I guess we'd say, or?
Well, this is gonna help, yeah, the Council on Aging would end up modifying their hours so that their staff would then be able to assist with Park and Rec functions. So right now, Park and Rec would just have a vacant position. So, and, because Kara's already moved over to the Council on Aging at this point, so what we've tried to do is to say, okay, hold off on that, still spend some time winding down operations. We got through the summer, we had the town beach open, that's good, but she's still dealing with oversight of the rail trail people and the people up at Wally Park, because a lot of the operations at Wally Park are still directly under the Park and Rec. Our custodial people under facilities manager of buildings and grounds, the position that Bob used to hold, that he's no longer with us, and we have reposted that position because he retired. That we were thinking about maybe moving some of the issues that Park and Rec used to take care of underneath that department head, because they're already handling all the other facilities and grounds throughout the town, minus the school system. And then the operations would be done by working with the Council on Aging people. You know, because Kara's with them now, and they have the ability to backfill each other and to use those skill sets that they have, because you have two organizations that are used to doing events planning, dealing with different groups, and they really want to have, they brought this to their respective boards. Those boards are really interested in having the different groups of people sort of get exposed to each other, like the seniors exposed to more of the youth activities and the kids and so forth, and vice versa. So that's something that we've gone through the numbers. I mean, Kara was already doing almost 1,200 hours a year anyway. So, you know, we would just be realigning the dollars on a trial basis, but I want to make sure, and the board wants to make sure, and that's why Mr. Didi asked me to come to this meeting, that we can, you know, go through this trial process, and that we understand that if we make it permanent, we'd be making a much more improved situation that we have now. Because what we have now, as you said, Arthur, is just not acceptable to the way it should be done.
All right, and included in our packet are letters of support from both Park and Rec and the Council on Aging, right?
Right, yep, and that's why you had been invited as the Park and Rec liaison. Sheila was invited as the Council on Aging liaison, and we were able to get everybody, you know, at the table, and then all those respective boards went back, and they've endorsed this project.
Okay. So
Okay. Go ahead.
what you're saying is Kara, when she was working for Park and Rec, did 30 hours a week.
She averaged, It was 18 hours a week during a certain number of months, and then during the peak months, it was 28 hours. So it averaged, I think, Laura, up to 25? Yeah, I think it was about
So
25.
now she's over at the Council of Aging.
Yep.
And how many hours is she doing over there?
She's doing 30 right now, and the director's doing 30, and we would be changing those things to go up to 7 additional hours each.
Okay, so for both of them. So we did not backfill the position
No, we
at
did not.
Park and Rec.
No, she's still down there
So
covering.
she's gonna do both jobs, so that, so there's actually kind of a savings in hours, you're saying?
Well, there's also a higher price point, because she's going from being a program manager at like $18 an hour up to a assistant department person with the actual department head, where they'd both be covering each other, because the concerns about, well, when Kara's not here, who's backfilling her? Well, right now, nobody, because the Park and Rec can't do that. So now that you would end up having, instead of people trying to go to the select people for issues, or going to the,
Okay. Now,
Council on Aging director, you're gonna have backfilling
now,
capabilities.
when Kara went from the Park and Rec over to the Council on Aging.
Yep.
Did she move like a lateral move where she would be making the $18 an hour?
No, it's actually a little less,
Okay,
because she had to.
so then now you are changing the position. Is
Yep.
that a position that should be posted? And what are the qualifications, hired as more of a, at this level, at the $18 an hour, though actually less, now it's at $22 an hour. What requirements, what qualifications, education? Is she really the appropriate person to be doing this, or should that have been opened up?
With the department head leadership over her, for her to become an assistant and be groomed for it, yes, because then the rate of pay we would be paying her, which falls under the select board's purview,
Okay,
would be one of those issues where she would be getting that pay rate because it's above an entry-level clerk. So we're not gonna pay somebody to be doing more higher skill set stuff and more responsibility and oversight, and pay them less than we pay an entry-level clerk. From a pay equity point of view, that's not appropriate.
I get that. I still am not sure why, if you're changing the title and you're changing the job description and you're changing the pay
And the hours.
and the hours, why that wouldn't be a posted position, that someone else, in education field, that would absolutely have to be posted.
Yeah, there's no posting requirements, it's not a union position and so forth, so. And the,
And would there be a,
and the position's there, so, well, say hypothetically, we went and did that, and then someone else got hired, then what do you do with the person that's working at the Council on Aging now?
and I'm just.
See, that doesn't work that way, you'd then be displacing somebody. You'd be
Yeah,
doing further damage, and you would not be accomplishing what the Council on Aging and the Park and Rec Commission want to accomplish.
I like the idea of joining the two, I just am concerned about
Yeah,
the same, I think it sounds like we're on the same
yeah,
page.
how you're going about doing it, because I know each year we have several different departments that, try to add hours or increase pay of their
It's a huge part of
assistant
the budget
staff.
process.
And it's a huge conversation where, they think that people should be making more, and here, this is percentage-wise, is a huge jump.
well, it's a
When
percentage on a smaller dollar amount, so that's deceiving to say that. And what we are doing here is,
And when you're
the
at $4 or
alternative,
$5 an
the
hour, when people
alternative
are
here is to
getting-
hire a $60,000 Park and Rec director. So that's what you want, because that's what we're gonna have if we don't go in this direction. We're gonna end up going down that pathway. Because right now, there's also the issues of what Park and Rec needs to do to manage their facilities and their grounds and so forth.
And that's where I was kind of going to, because I remember part of the budget hearings last year, there was quite the discussion
About
about
needing to make those improvements.
improvements, yes,
And
there was
that's-
the project
right.
management and, yes.
Right, so that's one step,
What
and of
wasn't
course,
being
if you
done.
read the document does talk about making the other changes to the other position.
I was the liaison to Park and Rec, and I've been telling them for years that they need to address the management issue. And for a number of reasons, people were reluctant to fund what I personally thought they needed if the park was gonna grow and become more organized and successful. I think this is a serious attempt to do that. We're trying to cover as many bases as possible and provide the best service. And it's a little bit confusing the way people are shuffled around. But I want to also, as chairperson here tonight, I want to remind people on this committee that the select board is the personnel board. They strictly deal with people issues. We can look at numbers, and there's nothing wrong with commenting about what the heck they're doing. But, I mean, there's a fine line at some point that we shouldn't be crossing over in terms of, I don't know, trying to analyze and critique what the select board, the personnel board is doing. Okay, so I don't know if I put that gracefully enough. I'm not trying to offend anybody. We've all had questions about personnel issues along the way, but there is a distinction somewhere.
Right.
And we may go back and forth across it all the time. I just want to make new members aware of that, remind us old folks of that too. Speaking for myself. Yes.
Quick question, did someone leave the Council of Aging as far as in the offices there?
Yeah, they ended up having, one person moved to Maine and
Okay,
another
all
one.
right, so I was concerned about, I know they were looking for more office space and,
Yeah, so
I
what
didn't
we
know where
did is
they were
we
gonna
did an internal posting. The department head did their interviews. She picked the best possible person that did well because they've already known each other. Everybody has a relationship because the seniors have had events down at the beach before. So there's already been some level of cross-pollination. This is gonna improve upon that. And this is something why the people that came to the selectmen's meeting a few weeks ago all went back to their own, after they left that meeting, they all went back and all of those boards unanimously approved doing this plan. And again, this is sort of something that, we're gonna do it on a trial basis, but it beats the alternative of having to graduate to a park and rec director position. Because that's gonna be more dollars, and that's gonna be right now, these are both benefited positions, they're already getting benefits,
And the
they already have
benefit level's not
OPEB, it's
changing.
all there.
It's not changing.
Yep,
was
if
my
we
question.
go and do all those
They
other
don't get
things.
more benefits with the new position.
Yep, if we go in that other direction, you're gonna have your OPEB, you're gonna have your indirect, you're gonna have all of that other stuff coming.
So the other thing I was reading in the correspondence from you, Carl, is that right now, you figured out a way of funding it until the next budget.
Right,
And then on the next budget, we're gonna have to include it. What's that price gonna be? What do you anticipate that price will be?
we would be discussing that during the budget cycle. See, this gives us a chance to start the process
But what-
on a trial basis.
But what are you thinking? I mean, you must have given some thought to what it
Well,
might
I mean,
be.
this-
Are we talking
this-
10,000, are we talking 50,000?
No, I think that's something that the board's not inclined for that either. There'll be some more dollars because as you annualize this and you deal with those other expenses for the two people that are gonna be running it, who are gonna be still running the beach, they're still gonna run the beach and the operations, but not the issue of taking care of it. That'll be all under buildings and
Right.
grounds, just like now, you set your budget process last year. And I don't think any of this work fell into Capcom, so you wouldn't have had any of this happen, but just like myself and Hillary and Carrie, we had to go and address, okay, what were the important needs for this building and that building and this building? And that all got put together. You had a list of things, we went through the budget process, they were discussed, and then when we went through the reconciliation process, you decided what the consensus was of what we were gonna fund, and certain things were held back. And we'll go through the same process with these buildings next year, and then we'll have the issue with whoever will be the new supervisor of buildings and grounds. Because right now, the schools have a gentleman, his name is Eric Wickender. He handles 3 or 4 buildings, 300,000 square feet. We need to get back on track because we had Bob for a while and we were making some headway, but now we're behind the schedule there. So we not only have to catch up to those issues, we also have to take care on something with the park and rec because it doesn't make sense to have all different people taking care of different things. So this is an opportunity to address that, and that's something that was originally something the board wanted to handle, and Mr. Didi had been talking about. He was up talking to members of the Park and Rec about, what's done at the park and what isn't done, and what's done on Rail Trail, what's done. Well, that's gonna be something that's gonna be addressed as this gets along, because this other situation just materialized in the last 3 or 4 months with these other people, moving out of state and retiring. So we had an opportunity.
Yeah.
Okay? We had an opportunity, and we went through the process to fill that position. And now we're looking at people from Park and Rec are like, well, geez, we don't want to lose this person. This person was, for what they were doing, they didn't want to lose that person. So, we looked at it, well, maybe there's something we can do, and, we did some brainstorming, and that's how we came up with this particular approach, and it's got all these methodical steps and notes that I put there and so forth. So a lot of thought went into this, and the labor relations part of it, the issues with
Okay.
the benefits part went into it, and I think those are written in.
Okay.
Yeah,
That was my comment.
All right,
yeah.
that's good.
We can move on.
I love the idea of the young and the old. When I went to, at the MIAA, they were saying that people were not building senior centers, they were
Right.
building community centers. I love that idea. I just am concerned about what it's gonna cost us at the other end, if anything.
Right.
That was all my question was.
And that's a valid question.
Like when we come back in January, is it gonna be like, oh, well, now we have to pay this much more? That's concerning.
Well, this is gonna be on a trial basis
Yep.
What do you consider a trial basis? I mean,
through the end of the fiscal year.
okay.
Because that's why we want to be able to go and look at this situation, and that's why as we go through and make these changes, it becomes important for the liaisons of these two departments to be also going and seeing them, visiting them, and bringing back reports to your board.
My only general comment would be is don't wait till the end of the fiscal year if it's not working, because it sounds like if it's not working, the alternative is we have to put in potentially a higher paying position, right?
Right.
So that would be my only
Yeah, we
comment
wouldn't be,
is
yeah. I
wait
think.
the white flag if it's not.
I think right now, because you're dealing with two people that deal with levels of program management in events, you'd be amazed at what the Council on Aging does, that we have skill sets there that we're gonna be able to start to use in this other area. They do trips, you should look at their newsletters
Yep.
and so forth, so if it's gonna work, it's gonna work under this particular in-house chemistry.
You only have to be
Park and Rec needs
55.
Park and Rec.
More
yeah.
activities.
Yep.
You only have to be 55 to participate, by the way, just throwing that out there.
And here's the thing to think about, but right now Park and Rec's trying to, help the schools and this goes to your other issue before, Arthur, about, well, what's it gonna take till we finally try to make it more, where it pays for itself more? Because let's face it, this issue, you had other people come to town meeting and make representations and so forth about how it was gonna, certain things were gonna pay for itself, and that never exactly panned out where it's, it's not 100% coming from its revolving funds and receipts and so forth. So this is our chance to be able to make inroads at that.
All right,
We're not.
excellent.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll move on to something perhaps more simple. The American Rescue Plan Act of 2021.
Yeah, everybody should have one.
Yeah, this is basically money from the federal government to cover certain expenses related to coronavirus and other associated.
Well, actually, you have two different programs. One was the CARES Act that came last year, that's had a couple of supplemental appropriations, but
Yep.
and that is something that we use to pay for all sorts of supplies and things of that. So Laura's been tracking that stuff with Melissa, and as we've gone along, Robin's been doing the reimbursement submittals to the state and to FEMA. So those monies have been coming in, and the more that we can bring in those monies under what we've expended under the CARES Act to respond to the pandemic, then that will reduce the amount that we have as a liability, because right now, that's something that you're allowed to carry as a deficit on your books for a number of years, that if whatever you don't eventually get for reimbursement, we are responsible for liquidating that liability. No different than we had the huge snowstorm, you know, on 10/29/11 or whatever that was, where it cost us $2.4 million. And I think our share was about $230,000. So we were able to recover most of that. Well, this is the same process here, but we're talking much, much smaller numbers, a couple of $100,000 tops, right, Laura, for that. So that part's underway. Robin's already had tons of reimbursements come in.
CARES is up to 158, but that includes the 79 for the school. And then I have another in progress, and that's probably gonna be about another 80 or 90
Right,
for
yeah.
FEMA.
We
And then
actually,
we'll be closing out.
we actually did, as a, for the school district, they ran out of money that they were getting, so we did a CARES Act application for them, as did Tolland and Granville, to help offset prorated shares. Ours was in the 80-something thousand range.
That's what I was just gonna ask, if the schools had something separate from the town.
They did.
They were
so-
separate.
So we
I
did
did
a,
that for 'em.
we did a separate application for them, got the money, and we gave them their check a few weeks ago. And as did the other communities. So that was done. In fact, the schools did us a favor. Remember, they gave us ESSER money during the budget process. Well, the state ended up not allowing them to do that, so they had to eat that cost in their budget on the money that they couldn't end up giving us, that they had a vote, which they had given us in the form of a lower assessment. So that's the CARES Act. Now, ARPA was a new piece of legislation. And what it looks like there is these are federal money, American Recovery and so forth Act, and you know, there's limited uses for those funds. And those are supporting the public health response, replacing public sector revenue loss, which we didn't determine it was going to be worthwhile for us to get into that exercise, because we didn't have parking meters, we didn't have meals taxes, we don't have occupancy taxes, we didn't have any of those types of add-ons that communities do. So we didn't end up losing those types of funds. You know, big municipalities, large suburbs, and places like that. So for us, where it's going to be possible use is broadband infrastructure, public health issues like putting in the new, I guess they call them water fountains. I guess you're not supposed to even call them bubblers anymore or something like that.
Like a drinking fountain.
Well, yeah, because you know, the Board of Health wants them all changed
Bottle
out.
refills.
Yeah, bottle refills, all those types of things, so we're looking at that stuff. And then we're looking at all the types of projects that we've been working with Randy.
Randy Brown, DPW director.
Yeah, water lines, we already approved one that's ready to go for College Highway, so that's something that we might be able to use. And then Randy's got some other designs that were done on sewer pump stations, so he's gonna come forward with a list to the select board, along with what we've already got from the Board of Health. And the way this law works is the funds have already been received, they've already been deposited into a grant account, and the chief elected official of the community is the entity that makes the sole decision on how those are distributed and for what purposes. No further appropriations, none of that, Department of Revenue guidelines.
So how does Randy and water fit into the qualifications for?
That's just the way that's.
I see it more of as infrastructure
Well,
rather than public health.
I think what happened, well, because those are infrastructure, and I think ARPA funds are designed toward infrastructure minus roads and bridges. So, you know, in some of your previous mail folders, we've given you the types of reasons for how they can be used. And I think in other parts of the country, you saw a lot of communities were they were already decimated before the pandemic hit. And I think they're using these funds to help them deal with issues like Flint, Michigan and the lead pipes. This issue's going all over the United States.
Not that I'm complaining that it's
Oh.
used towards water, but I was just.
No, but that's
confused.
what they talk about, water, sewer, and they, you know, and then broadband, we're fortunate, we've got broadband in our community, we don't have issues where we're not covering the last mile and things like that. So we have to go through this process, and in fact, I have a Zoom or a webinar tomorrow for some updated, information regarding this type of stuff, but at some point, the selectmen, we're gonna, start having discussions about what they think they want to use the funds for. Now, the funds are coming in they use this word, I've never heard of it, it's called a tranche, TRAN.
Tranche.
Yeah. So, instead of just saying two allocations or appropriations, the federal government's gotta use different words, So what happened was we've already received the two allocations of this year's money, and the same two will be next year, but it's still 50%. And it's about $1,455,676.27. So, and Laura has those in the appropriate grant accounts for tracking purposes. So we have to go through that, and it's not regulated through the Mass DOR or the State Administration and Finance Department. It's actually monies that are regulated through the United States Department of Treasury. So you really want to make sure that you absolutely program it for the purposes of which it's intended to, because it's all done through the audit process that you run. So that's what those funds look like, and that's the general purposes for which they can use for, and each community is going through its own process, to determine what makes best sense for them and what they can use it for, and the timeliness of when the federal government wants those funds used. Because you might come up and say, Carl, wouldn't that be a better use for those funds? And I might say to you, yeah, but we won't have time to do all those things, in terms of permitting and designs and types of stuff. So those are some of the parameters that we have to operate on.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Well, then I will thank you for your attendance tonight and your detailed explanations. And you're welcome anytime.
Well, thanks.
To stop by, fill us in on
I
a few
speak to a lot
things.
of you all the time.
No.
And just to let you know, now that you've got the bigger version of this, you'll see that we have not closed out the project, the
Fire
fire
department.
station, right, for the roof, because we still have to address the front window. Okay, remember there was a leaking issue, so certain things had been done. Those issues helped, but they did not resolve it. So we have a vendor who will be working with the GC to address that outstanding issue. And that will be reconciled in the final change order that will determine the final payment to them. So that's why, because we were already well ahead of the game in terms of credits we were gonna be getting. So some of that's gonna erode the credits. So what's gonna happen is when this is all over and the dust is settled, that's just with the GC. The clerk of the works is still dealing with issues that aren't under the general contract. Things that we would not want to pay for markups on. Landscaping, we had to do some other stuff. We had to do additional lightning protection because certain things were put back, but the lightning codes changed, so we had to do more lightning issues. And this is good for you to know about, because you're going to see the same process happen in this building that you're sitting in now. Because this is all under design and permitting now, for this roof. And at some point, that design firm will have some daytime meetings with people, some evening meetings, and then at some point, there'll be a group meeting like we did before on the fire station, I think. Were you at that one, Sheila? And Terry, you were at that one, right? We had it in the auditorium, but the designers came in and we we discussed the roofs and we discussed which ones, and then we all decided
I think
to
we were
go
all
with the
there.
roof that's over there now, that
Yeah.
PVC roof, instead of like
We were all there.
Yeah.
the 3-tab shingle and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So what happens with these leftover funds when that project gets closed out for the issues for which it was appropriated for? The funds can be reappropriated for a like purpose. Well, you're sitting under the like purpose right now. So that's gonna be a good thing. And we're using the same clerk of the works that did that project is now, who's our former building commissioner, is actually working with us now because he's not only helping us do the project that he helped in the selection process for the RFP for the design firm, which after 6 interviews or 6 firms ended up being the same firm that we were using. He's also this one, but he's also helping us fill in for Bob Johnson's absence too.
So if I'm reading this right, it's the general contractor portion that was significant savings?
Well, that we haven't closed out that 245 number.
Yes.
Yeah, so that will all be reconciled in the final change order.
Okay. So.
And that's going to include the work I just added on to the project.
So where we stand right now, do we think it's gonna be over or under budget? It sounds like you think it's gonna be.
Oh, yeah, well,
under
if you took your total thing going across there, even if you were over, you have contingency money and you have a total committed balance of 364 left to the far right. So, yeah, we're gonna be underneath there.
Okay.
Yeah,
The purpose
that's
is,
good news.
the
Oh, yeah,
purpose,
definitely.
well, that's because you know, when we went to town, because don't forget,
When I saw the 245, I was like, okay, how can that estimate be that far off? But you're saying it's not all closed out.
no, it's not all closed up, plus what happens when we were doing some of the,
Was it not as bad as we thought it was?
yeah, when we were doing some of this, like the brickwork, we didn't end up having to do all of it. So we got a credit there. But now I'm about to use some of that credit for the window issue.
Okay, but that's not gonna bite us in the butt 3-4 years down the road?
No.
That
In
we
fact,
didn't
if you
do
go
all
by,
of it?
you'll see a
Yes.
power wash, you'll see it, and you go up and
Okay.
look at it, and, you know. Yeah, because some of the areas that they didn't do is like, if you look at the doorways, you know, like going into it, you know, not the flush against the outside elements, but some of the doorways coming in. They had, you know, all that was measured as quantities, and then also, when we went to replace the roof, they didn't have to put as much sheathing up there. You know, we didn't have a lot of like rotted 4x8s, plywoods.
Okay.
You know, you do have that here. We've got a lot of delaminated, rotted. I mean, we've spent $11,000 repairing this roof in the last year by bringing in roofers twice to handle this roof. That's why it was important to, you know, that's why it was important to go to town meeting and get the approval to do the design work here. And our goal is to do the same thing we did before, which is get a good design, get our options, have a group meeting, decide, okay, folks, here's the estimates, here's the options, which way we doing it again, and then go out to bid, and then go to town meeting.
Are we gonna be looking at the same material that we used?
That is one of the options.
Fire station?
Yep. That'll be one of the options. And the funny thing over there is it looks like it's a metal ribbon roof, and it's not. It's a PVC roof, and then they put those strips down there, they're called riblets, and they attach them, and it makes it look like it's been crimped, and it's a sealed metal roof, but it's not. And actually, and then of course it goes down into the valleys and comes up over the gutters to the back of the basement. So there's no water getting back in that building again. It's only where the window is where the water's been, everything else has been airtight.
So far, everybody's been happy with the material?
Yeah.
I know there's some questions.
Yeah.
People were a little hesitant, but willing to try it.
Had enough rain
I was
to
just
test
gonna
it.
say the same thing,
Had
yeah.
enough rain.
Well, you know,
Those
my
things get in,
suggestion to you
exactly.
is, besides what I've informed you of on the elliptical window in the front there, that we've okayed that change order to be done, which will be netted out with credits, that you can have your liaison go see the fire chief and ask him, okay, chief, besides the window, how we doing? Have him do that. report back to you.
No, not gonna happen.
Okay.
All right, good.
All right,
All right,
thank you again.
Thanks, Carl.
thanks for letting me come in.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. It's always good.
Have yourself a good rest of the evening.
Hey, I'll look for a third night to be out this week.
All right,
Good.
Thanks.
thanks a lot.
Thanks, folks.
Bye, Carl.
Nice meeting you, Doctor.
Okay, getting back to our agenda. The next thing on the list was to review the liaison list. And my thought on this is that we should probably not try to reassign anything right now tonight. And wait till our next meeting, because perhaps by then we'll have a different opportunity to assign people to different places.
That makes sense.
As we replace Linda, and then, however that occurs. Hopefully that'll take place, and I'm anticipating that our next meeting would be in about a month. So I think that might give us time to fill the open position, whatever way that happens, and then when we're a full committee, we can look at the liaison list. Does that make sense, or?
That makes perfect
Somebody
sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And that'll be important in December-ish.
Yeah, I mean, we gotta-
Before the budget
January-ish.
hearing.
We gotta get on
Yeah.
it soon,
Yeah.
but I think we can wait.
But
till-
that's when you meet with their, the liaison meets with, I meet with the fire department, and we go over their budget and look at it and give them ideas, or give them, that kind of stuff, so. And I think what worked, pretty well, Karen, was when I dragged you over with the fire at one time, just to kind of give the new people a sense of what you do. So. and I think
So we'll be dragging you around at some point.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Next item is
Tabled.
organization and makeup of the finance committee per the town code book, and you've all got a copy of that information in your folder, in your paperwork.
Yep.
Any questions on that? No. Okay. Committee member liability protection. I'm not sure who asked the question, but, okay. So the question was, are we covered under the town's liability policy as finance committee members? And
I'll tell you where the question came from, is I work for a bank, and we're told under, bond and professional liability insurance, if you're an officer, your volunteer work, your liability insurance extends to you. But I looked into it a little bit further, and it extends to nonprofit work, and since this is a municipality, it's not nonprofit. And I was like, whoa, finance committee and some of the things we're getting into this past year. So that's why I asked the question. And what I was also told through the bank's insurance agent is that our homeowners policy should also cover us. So between our homeowners policies and what the town has for us, we should be set.
Just quit your job.
okay, well, that's good, helpful information. So we should be covered one way or another.
Yep.
No matter how good a decision we make, or otherwise.
Yep.
Okay? Okay, next thing is discuss future meetings, in person or hybrid. Obviously, tonight is in person. I requested that specifically because we had so many things moving around tonight, people and items on the agenda, and we had, these are important. The issues that Carl talked about are big dollar issues for the town, and have an important impact on what we're trying to do as, as a town for the community. So we had a bunch of things going on. I didn't want to confuse the issue with a somewhat new technology, which is the hybrid meeting. I've been to one or two meetings and I've listened to one or two meetings. And I'm not particularly impressed with either scenario, but the trend right now is to go to a hybrid meeting where it's Zoom and in person. So you can participate in either capacity. And what's important about that to this board, this committee right now, is that our missing member, Bob Horacek, would be able to participate remotely. Because I don't think he's gonna be able to participate in person for a while. Now, whether or not that ever happens, that's his decision, that's not my decision, but to make that available, I think is important. So I would suggest that we anticipate going forward that we have what's called a hybrid meeting. Those meetings are not available in this room right now, correct? It's my understanding. Or can you move, are we at a place where we can move equipment around?
I think we can move equipment around.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
either way, if we don't have the
It's-
meeting in this room, which is fairly small, we can move up to the meeting room upstairs or the auditorium or
Yep.
wherever we need to move. Is the selectmen's conference room, is that connected now? Wired up?
I don't know whether it's wired up. Basically, what I've seen is it's what they refer to as an owl attached to a laptop that kind of sits in the middle of the table and
So that-
spins around. I haven't personally seen it. They showed us how to set it up real quick, that it was easy in case we did hybrid. So I think it's,
Yes, we will.
Well, again,
Yeah.
this is new technology for
Yep.
me. I'm not sure about everybody else, but, so your assistance will be important
Yep.
if we do this
Yep.
at our next meeting. Or, you know, you can recruit somebody else who is capable as well.
Yep.
But I think that's the way we should go.
The last select board meeting I participated on remotely using the owl. The owl was
Yes.
pretty impressive, actually. You could see a lot. It was, I actually appreciated that opportunity.
Yeah,
The only thing is, it's hard to, in a select board meeting, so there's a room full of people, to, if people hadn't stopped and said, Sheila, what do you think? It's hard to get your word in edgewise.
yeah. Yeah.
However, given that we don't typically have an audience and we're a small group, hopefully that would be less of an issue.
Yeah.
And I agree with you that Bob's input is pretty critical to our team. And I personally would probably choose the at-home option too, as the only masked person in the room.
Is that what the planning board uses for their Zoom thing, is the owl thing? Not sure?
I'm not 100%. I wonder, it's just a little device that sits on the table and it rotates.
It gives you a
Do we have it?
scan of the
Yeah,
whole
that must
room.
be,
They have it locked up because
And
that
then it
must be
has
what
like-
it is.
You
So
can have like 3 screens showing at once, one big one,
that
two
must be
small
what they
ones.
have,
Yeah,
because
it's pretty cool.
I zoom in
It's
on
about
those,
this-
I don't go to
well,
them.
maybe
Right,
Yeah.
it was pretty cool. I appreciated it.
Okay, yeah, it's, cool.
Yeah, we've seen it
Well,
on the screen, but
unless
not
there's
in action.
any reason not to go that route, I'll suggest as acting chair that we do that. Okay?
As an option.
All right. Okay, another document that we have in front of us is the Bartholomew and Company Annual Review.
We're gonna go line by line again this year? That meeting?
Hell no. No, Bartholomew is a company which oversees our investment funds in town and different trust funds such as Cemetery Library, Dickinson School Trust, the Bernadera Flag Fund, Conservation Commission funds, and unemployment. In a nutshell, I'm going to say that I attended the meeting where they presented this information, and the important things that I took away, and these are 40,000-foot observations, is that the funds and the impact of COVID on various interest rates and monies was minimal. I mean, a year or two ago, people were very concerned about how COVID was going to affect finances of all sorts. And as it turns out, on these particular issues, it wasn't overly significant. Most of these investments are obviously very conservative. There was an additional request for Bartholomew to evaluate an additional particular asset. I don't know if you remember that, Laura. They were gonna review, it wasn't revolving funds. I had taken notes and inadvertently they were thrown away at my house. And this is 2 months ago now.
2 months ago, I know.
Yeah, so there was
Yeah.
something that they were gonna review a little bit further, and it was, it had something to do with different options the town had with monies, and it wasn't anything critical, it was just kind of a off-the-cuff question that somebody had, but when we get the answer,
Yeah.
I can bring it back up.
Yeah, I have to, I don't remember whether it was OPEB or,
It had something to
Yeah.
do with a bunch of different funds, whether
Yeah.
we could,
or the state,
how much,
yeah.
how liquid they had to be or something, I don't remember.
Yeah, I know.
But anyway, you know, you can have fun reading through this. It's all interesting stuff, especially when you're trying to understand, you know, the town's finances and where they hold money. And most people in town probably have no idea of information. Just for example, in a document like this, it's all public information. But for your review, I'll leave it at that.
I have new business too whenever you're, unless you,
Well, yeah, okay, well, before we get to that,
Mhm.
I'd like to mention, let's see, one other thing I've got here is reorganizing the committee. It's something that we do historically sporadically, but, you know, we choose a chair, a vice chair. A lot of boards do it annually, right after the town meeting, where people are sworn in to their new positions on different boards and committees. And I don't know that we followed any kind of a regular path like that. Linda was our chairperson for over a year, maybe 2 years, but because of COVID, we didn't meet that often. And so we were kind of upset by that. Before Linda was Bob Rodcheck, who's recovering, and he was chairperson for, again, I don't know, 2 or 3 years.
yeah,
And before him was an individual who was chairman forever. I mean, I don't know, 13, 15, 17 years or something like that. So what I'd like to do is at least bring up the reorganization again at our next meeting for discussion. And again, maybe by then we'll have a more firm idea of membership, and it would make more sense to try to act on that then, I think. Okay?
That makes sense.
If that makes sense. So,
should we have Celeste here for that too, maybe, or? I mean, she's never been to one of our meetings, of course.
well, I talked to Celeste.
What's that?
She has attended some meetings via Zoom. I think they were probably
Oh.
more the budget meetings, but
Oh,
she
yeah.
has.
Celeste is our town moderator, she appoints the members. And I spoke with her
And-
today, and she asked me today, you know, should I come? And I said, hell no. No, I mean,
All right, good
No.
for you.
no, I said, you know, she's totally welcome to come anytime she wants. I said, you know, if we look historically at what our previous town moderator did, Jim Putnam, I think you can count on one hand over a 10-year period where he appeared. And he was basically a real hands-off kind of person. If we had a question for him, he addressed it
Absolutely.
adequately and immediately, but,
That's fine, just,
if you feel the need to, you know.
I don't, she's another pretty gal, so I don't think I can take it. Too many beautiful women in there.
You're so
Did
full
you
of
get
it,
that?
Derek.
All right.
You know what, if we're hybrid, maybe she'll participate that way anyway.
There
Yeah.
you
It's
go.
a little bit less of a commitment
Exactly.
if you're
There you
only gonna
go.
drop in for part of the meeting.
All right, so the only other issue I have in front of me is, at the last meeting of the Board of Selectmen a week ago, I attended, they were trying to formulate who's gonna be on the master plan, is that what your issue was?
That's one of the things, yes.
Okay, so now the town allocated money, appropriated money this year to begin rebuilding a master plan, which is required by law through the planning board. And the planning board is putting together a committee, which I'm not sure what the total number is, 10, 12, 15 people?
I think it was 15.
I mean,
15?
not the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and a lot of the committee members are representatives of different boards, committees. So finance committee is one of those committees that needs to designate a person to be part of the master plan. So,
It's a 2-year commitment. That was the one thing that they made clear. It's a 2-year commitment. You have to be, if you want to take it on, you have to be willing to take on the 2-year commitment.
yeah. So is anybody at the table interested?
Yeah, I will raise my hand, but I know I'm new, and part of it was part of the ask was experience with a respective board. So if somebody else wants to, push me away, I would totally respect that, but I am willing to do it.
Anybody else?
If somebody else wants to go, that's fine with me. I think whatever we do, we need to vote on it though, so that
Yeah.
they
Absolutely.
know, yeah. I mean, make a long story short, this was done in 1997. And in this building, a gentleman named Art Pennell asked me to come with him to a water quality. This is before this building was, in a mess. It was, not fixed up like
It was
this.
unoccupied.
Unoccupied.
Largely.
And he asked me to come along to talk about water quality, and there was a number of people that were there, Merle Murphy and Ann Stant and planning board people, blah blah blah, and that was the first time I was ever involved in town politics. It was all because of this gentleman right there.
He's blaming
He
you.
dragged me into it. So, just so you know, I have been on the planning board, the chairman.
So
I've been involved in this.
use this if I need to.
What's
I
that?
use this if I need to.
For questions?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah.
That's
yeah.
like if you get pulled over for speeding,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
don't show them that card.
Got it. No, it
So-
had been mentioned in the Capcom, as I was part of Capcom
Yep.
last year, and it was mentioned, and we had talked about the need for
Yep.
it, and
And
it's
I-
something I do agree that we have a need for, and
Yep.
I'm happy to help.
And I don't think they like me anyway over there, because I've been hard on them as far as the way they were going. This is the right way to go, so they're moving in the right direction. So I think we need to take
All
a
right, well-
vote, sir.
Would somebody like to make a motion to
I'll make a motion. I'll make the
designate
motion.
Alita as our
Designate you as our,
representative to the master plan committee?
yes, exactly.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Sheila will second. Any other conversation, discussion? All those in favor say aye.
I,
Anyone opposed? None opposed, any abstain? None abstain.
it's unanimous.
Congratulations.
Oh, thanks.
Congratulations.
I'm not sure if they've established any kind of schedule yet.
That's fine.
October 5th.
But Terry is.
Well, okay, I was kind of chastised last time, and
That's some kind of an education,
yeah, educational thing.
it's reading.
Chastised it because I didn't know anything about that, being liaison to the planning board. I was chastised for not knowing about the Carvana thing.
No, that was self-imposed. Nobody
What?
chastised you for that.
I chastised
You
myself.
voluntarily,
Yes,
uh,
yes. So I took it, I'm taking this end of this a little more seriously, so, I don't know where we're going with this. Should I go on to the next thing? What? Oh, well, I'll go back to this. October 5th, Pioneer Valley Planning Commission is coming in to discuss the
What?
master plan thing, so.
No, not yet.
So it'll probably behoove you to do that, so.
Do you have a time on that? And place?
Well, you just get the minutes, or, go on the town's website and find it, because they have not,
Which,
That
the
has-
planning board?
planning board, yeah, that hasn't, but the agenda has not been posted yet, so. and
All right, so
where it
we
is.
voted that.
And expect that if it says that it's gonna happen at 8:20, like the last meeting, and we didn't get to it till 10:20? Expect to be there a while. Anyway, so that's that. In fact, with that, I will give you this. This is the 1997 master plan that was done. It was not approved, and Art, correct me if I'm, it was not approved by the town formally as this. So when they tell you that it's, that we haven't had a master plan since whatever, this was actually done, and it's comprehensive, as Art mentioned, and there has been a lot of things on there that that have been voted on by the town, like a flexible residential development was an option before this, and now it is. That's the first thing that's the default, is that you have to do the flexible residential thing. And again, if you don't know what that is, it doesn't matter. But what I'm saying is that it was approved that that's the first thing that the developer has to do, and then you can submit a conventional subdivision. Anyway, so there's a number of things that got fixed in that,
Thank you.
and I will get you that.
So this,
Oh, sorry.
I had a discussion over the cost of the master plan and where the money comes from. Now, you're saying that we developed this in 1997 and it wasn't approved, so.
It's,
No.
it's, yeah.
we,
Why
town
was it-
meeting voted to appropriate $75,000 approximately,
Yeah.
that's my recollection.
You mean this go around,
For this-
or back
No,
then?
for this,
Oh, yeah?
For
for this
They're much higher.
old one.
Yeah, I never got paid.
$75,000 at the time. And
wasn't
it was
approved.
never formally adopted by either the planning board or town meeting.
Yeah.
Why?
Because
It's,
my interpretation at the time, there was kind of conflicting ideas on the planning board, the people that were on the board, about whether they wanted to follow this. So they never adopted it.
right.
But over the,
But that's
over
where I was
the,
going.
over the course of the years, we did implement a lot of the things that were in here.
Right.
Okay, the town's always been concerned about recreation and open space, and the town's done a lot to do that, to improve that. We have a rail trail, we have Wally Park, we have a lot of open space.
We do. Okay, so
And-
it wasn't a waste. We have taken the ideas from.
Well,
that
let me tell you how this worked. When there was something in here that people could use, they referenced it, and when there's something that they didn't like, and it wasn't in there, they referenced it, because it's not in here. So it was used, but it was never formally adopted.
Right. Plus, it's also like bits and pieces, when you read that. It's not like a big comprehensive, thing. It's comprehensive, but it's like, little
This-
things here, little things there.
Did you mention that there's a link online where you can view, you don't have to have the paper document if you want to take a look at it?
Yeah.
It's on the, I don't know, you saw the link, right? Did he put it on the planning board website?
I don't remember what they did.
All right, so you can view
I'm
this
not a
document if you
lawyer.
want. I consider this to be quite comprehensive. I mean, there's all kinds of demographic data
Yeah,
that we might never use, but it's nevertheless interesting.
yeah.
Pioneer Valley Planning Commission is the outfit that I think we commissioned at the time to develop this. There was also a town-wide survey done
Yeah.
Right.
at some point relative to this,
Right.
and I think there may
I
be,
remember this.
maybe that
Yeah.
is gonna happen this time as well, I'm not sure, but,
Yeah.
uh,
But you at least have that is what was done previously, and certain things were adopted, some things weren't adopted. Plus,
when this.
the other thing too that was on there that I remember that the planning board did, which I thought got adopted, was a building, design thing, yeah, where like if
They
you're,
went-
if you're building a new commercial,
Design guidelines.
design guidelines, yeah, if you're building a new, general, I guess it couldn't be
When
Dollar
you're building
General
a
or
new
whatever.
drugstore, you don't wanna make it look like a prison. Oh, wait,
I don't remember.
down by the mobile station, we have a new drugstore, but you don't wanna make it look like a prison. You don't
Okay.
wanna have like a lot of brick and one little window up in the corner.
Oh, now this was more a case of things like the parking, they wanted the parking in the back, so it must not have been adopted. Because the
It wasn't.
parking lot are, you know.
And again, this is a recommendation, this is a guide
Yeah,
for the planning board and for other boards and activities in the town. It's not a mandate.
yeah.
Uh,
But some of the that came out of that did get mandated.
What do we expect to come out different this time than that
I
time?
can tell you one thing for sure, when this was developed, drive-in windows at businesses were evil and not acceptable
Yeah,
to this town.
and
Because they were gonna cause long lines of traffic, pollution, and unsightly things,
yeah.
just to give you an idea. I think
No lighted signs.
I think 90% of what is in here will show up again in a new one, but there's certainly some things, I mean, look at all the technology that we have now that we didn't have then.
Right.
And I mean, I can't even imagine all the things that are gonna come out of a new one, but a lot of the basic, you know, we like farms, we like open space, we like recreation, all that kind of stuff, I think is pretty much of a staple, and it'll be reflected in a new document as well.
Do people think that with the, say, current zoning, do they think by doing this master plan that they can change zoning or control?
Well, that's an
Yes.
important question, that
That's the
should
big-
be
Control
looked
the
at.
type of business
That's an
that
important
can go
question.
in.
Well, that's where I would
I
say,
think that's why a lot of people are getting involved.
right,
Right.
that's where I say, now you should be able to spend money on something, because my complaint has been with Pioneer Valley, is that you can't just give them the keys and say, here's $25,000,
It'll
come
be-
up with something for us.
It'll be 150,000 when it's complete.
Well, but
Yeah.
you have to give them the direction, and that's what that's what you're gonna get. And now there's a, you know, now because of the Carvana thing, there's the opportunity to take the industrial restricted zoning, which was mainly put in pretty much to stop residential housing. So now that should be tweaked to maybe, you know, work against what, you know, the loopholes that were in, you know, the Carvana thing. So come up with that again and
Yeah, 'cause-
relook at that.
Because even though it was zoned industrial, there was specific businesses that it said it would allow, and then there's this special permit process that they can circumvent what the specific
Well-
businesses that were named to go in there, which
Well-
were kind of ridiculous. It's not a business
No,
that would
yeah, but
have
see-
today.
You have to, you have to have something by right, like, I forget which zone it is, bookbinding is one of them.
I think
And that's just something that's there, okay, that's allowed by right. So if you had a bookbinding thing and say it's industrial, you know, whatever, you could put that in without the special permit, without the whatever.
And I think that's what
okay?
I was referring to. There's
Right.
certain businesses which really you wouldn't
Right.
see
But you-
around today.
Right.
So almost any business would have to come in for a special permit.
Right, and that's the idea. The special permit is what controls the development. That's how it should always.
To a degree.
Well, to a degree, yes, but things like, you know, the special permit they had in the very descriptions of that for the Carvana, for example, it said that you could deny it because of traffic things, and I don't have the exact phraseology, but so that you can say no. You could have said no, you know, when the decision came, and that's defensible because it's right there in the book saying that. So what they need to do is that they need to sharpen that, say in that industrial restricted area to, you know, whatever, however they want to phrase it, to say that you can't take all of this space, or you have to do this, or you have to do that, and put that in there so that the next person that comes around is more you know, is more controlled, so.
Fits the community better.
Yeah, yeah, but again, I mean, the Carvana thing, first, I don't know, whatever it is, 10 pages in the thing, the descriptions for, special permit, I think is where it was, that, as long as it doesn't increase, destroys the character of the town, or with something to do with the traffic or whatever, excessive traffic to change the character of the town, whatever it was, I don't have the phrase out, I don't have the book in front of me, but deny it, just, it's right there, always right there, so you didn't have to get fancy with the, with that, but it was also left open so that, another Wally's came in, or, can't even think of the other one place down there, the Whip, industrial thing down there by Wally's, the, something Whip, whatever that's called. So that could, be allowed, so again, we get industrial growth, but, and jobs and revenue. But as long as it's controlled.
All right.
Thanks, Terry.
Okay, we're good with that?
We're good with that, but I do have one more thing.
Go.
Okay, in my liaison thing to the planning board, I want to make sure that the finance committee knows there's a lot of things that they have on here that they've gone through, estate lots and things like that, which are, not really our concern. But there is, if you don't know, on Depot Street, there is a 100-unit residential development that they are working on presently. It is like townhouses, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and there's only a few 3 bedrooms. So it's not like it's a big family-friendly, type of thing. It's, that's what it is. However, at this time, because that would be on town water, they really can't build it out. So it's still in the process.
It's still on hold, that project, because of the water?
Because of the water, yeah.
I heard the Conservation Commission is also looking at it because it's
Yeah.
near wetlands.
Well, yeah, it's
There's one group behind it, there's only like 12 to 25 feet.
yeah, it's a short distance to it, and they're concerned. But although I gave them an idea, I don't know if they ever looked at it. But instead of having them all in a row, there's a wetlands up above, towards the center of town. Instead of having those one group of buildings, every backyard is, say, I'm just making this up, 16 feet from the wetlands. I suggested that they maybe tilt the buildings so that they actually have a little more space for somebody. The concern was that they're going to start cutting trees down and they're going to start encroaching onto that wetlands just because, or not, it's not that it's a buffer to the wetlands. They're going to start cutting trees down and they're going to put up a gazebo or whatever. They're going to start encroaching on that. I suggested that they tilt them so they're at an angle, and that gives them more of a backyard. And there's also makes almost kind of a barrier, so it's not a communal backyard, it's your own backyard. So anyway.
So you're talking about tilting the buildings like the Children's Hospital down in Hartford?
Arthur, now, come on.
Is that what you're talking about? I don't understand what you're saying.
I'm talking the lots, you know what I'm talking about.
No, I don't. All right.
So anyway, I didn't know if anybody didn't know or people didn't know about that, but that's the big thing as far as revenue and stuff goes.
We should talk about the town water issue again sometime, but not right now, because we've been here long enough, and we got just 2 more quick things.
Yep.
Do you have anything else? Anybody else have anything else before I wind things up here?
I just have something for everyone.
You have a little something for everyone?
Yeah.
Oh, isn't that nice?
Is it, what is it?
It's for the
Pizza
the
slices?
yearly ethics, it was a
Oh,
request. and
perfect.
it-
Oh, that's one of the
slices.
things I was gonna bring up.
Yeah, and I have one, a package for everyone for that.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Okay, so as a member of a board or committee or town employee, or if you live in the basement here, you have to take an ethics test every 2 years or 1 year now, I don't know. They
I thought it
changed
was-
something.
It's 2 years.
Annual,
You have to do it
Annual.
annual now?
annually.
You have to
Annually.
take an online ethics test, okay?
Annually.
Contact our town clerk for more details.
Well, I have the details.
Okay, we got the details right here.
I have one for every person. So I'll hand them
Wow.
out. I'll hand them all, I have them by name.
Just give them to me.
Oh,
and we'll
all right.
start.
In the future,
Yeah, take yours and pass
Nina,
them
in the
Was
future,
it
hand
by
that
name,
stuff out
or
at
is
the
this-
beginning of the meeting,
Oh,
so, so we can take a good long look at it.
Oh.
Are these by name?
Don't say.
yes, by name, it's on the bottom.
On the bottom. My name's not Art Purnell.
I put his first. He's the chairman.
All right, while we're passing those around, another thing that finance committee members
Wait a minute,
have
wait a minute.
access to is a
This
handbook,
is incorrect.
and
She's
I actually
not-
have a hard
well,
copy, but there were discs that were made at one point that, you know, you could review on,
Will we give
on your
Bob Horchak a
laptop or
I'll put it with his.
PC or whatever.
Terrence
Are you
Fish,
aware of those? Either one of you?
Art Purnell, Karen.
Nina,
Yes, I'm sorry.
we need to, there is a finance committee handbook, which every finance committee member is handed out.
Nope.
And it has all
Oh, you
kinds
have
of
one?
rules and regulations and talks about the history.
But hang on, time out just 1 second.
I'm sorry.
You just need to get her,
I did this year, but I'm listed on it. I did this before they swore me in June.
Okay,
I also just did it.
okay.
did you just do it?
I did it before I was sworn into Capcom, so it's
Oh, there
probably
you go.
been a year.
Okay, you're
Okay.
aware of that.
Write your
Probably
name on the
half a year.
write your name on the bottom.
Okay.
That's all it was.
Okay,
All
okay.
your members are taken care of now.
Okay, thank you. All right, sorry, I'm sorry, Art.
No, that's fine.
No.
All right, so we're all set with the
One time out.
ethics deal.
Are they trying to get it so that, because I did mine in the spring, and they contacted me in the spring too, are they trying to get it so it's the same time of year, so do it now so that we're all on the same schedule, is that easier for them?
I think there's a, included in the package. Let's see.
Yeah, there's a list of names, but as I said, I submitted mine in the
Yeah.
spring,
Okay.
before I could be sworn in again.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I need, if I do it now, does it make it easier for them, because we all do it at the same time? Or should I do it when I did it last year?
I will have to check.
I would say when it's convenient,
'Cause I'm in.
for you.
Yeah. You can also, ask Michelle.
Okay.
Okay, we all set with that?
You already had it.
All right, the finance committee handbook. The best solution I can come up with is ask Robin if she has additional copies of that, either hard copies or disc. And that we need to get our new members a copy of that for their purview, for their reference. All right? Okay, finally, finally, our next meeting. Like I said, about a month. Sometimes we get called in a little bit sooner because there's a particular issue that the finance committee needs to sign off on, so we may meet sooner, but as of right now, a month from now would be adequate, I think.
26th.
Let's see. Yeah, that's as close to a month away as we can get. Does that work for everybody? Or not work for anybody? You know, we usually try to get a consensus too, among the group of.
I'm retired.
I can do it.
Yeah, and again, this next one might be a combination of Zoom and in person, so that might make a difference to folks as well. Does that work
Right now, yes.
right now? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sheila?
And we're gonna do it hybrid?
I'm assuming that that's what's gonna happen, yeah. Okay, so the 26th. 26th will be our next meeting at 5:30. Room to be determined. How's that? Because I don't know if they can set that thing up here.
Default is here. And
Yeah.
I
we
think
call
it
it
can,
We'll call it here for
Yeah.
now. We can always change it. All right. Full disclosure, most of our meetings don't last this long. Terry usually doesn't talk so much.
It
Oh,
was
no,
Carl.
oh, no, it wasn't you.
There's a lot to cover too.
It was Carl.
There was.
There's a lot to
There
cover.
was, there's a lot of material to cover. Our meetings usually don't quite last this long.
Not even close.
But thank you for your perseverance, and we'll see what happens next time.
And Bob's
So-
package, should, just hold on to
Make up a package for him,
I have it,
just like, oh, for tonight?
yeah.
Is that the vote to adjourn?
Pardon me?
Vote to adjourn?
Yes, we do need to vote to adjourn. Have a motion?
I motion.
Second?
Second?
All's in favor?
Aye.
Done.
Turn off the recording now.
But now we're gonna talk about cat.